have to pull out the stool to stand on. You can put it back when you're up here. Good morning. Okay. We are the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston, West Virginia. And my name's Deborah Beatty. I am not Paul Dalzell, nor was meant to be. But I'm happy to be a member here and to welcome all of you. Welcome to our members, welcome to our friends, welcome to those of you who have not been here before, and a special welcome to our new minister, Don Rollins, and his wife, Mary. I'll tell you a little story about them. Sarah met with Don and Mary, I think, before she left on vacation this weekend, and so she immediately called me, of course, and said, he really seems good. He has the same values that we have. This is going to work out okay. And his wife, she's even nicer, So, welcome to our members, our friends, and if this is your first time, we welcome you and thank you for joining us today. If you are new to UUC, and there's a few new faces in here, I believe you'll find us to be an open, accepting congregation. We're guided by the 7 principles that you see around you, which were created. The principles weren't created by one of our members, but the portrayal of them was made by one of our members, an artist with us. We're guided by those 7 principles that you see. The principles are what attracted me to UUC for the first time, and they're what kept me coming back because I saw myself in them and I saw the ways I needed to grow in them. The principles are accompanied by 6 values: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, independence, and generosity. And love is the power that holds us together. Here at UUC, we place a very high value on healing and progressive actions that we undertake based on those underlying beliefs. We come from many religious and spiritual beliefs: Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, paganism, humanism, and many, many more, and for many of us, no religious background. Whatever your spiritual leanings are and whatever brought you here today, we welcome you. So please join us in singing our welcome song, and if you feel comfortable doing so, greet the people around you, smile, shake their hand, give a nod. Jamie, will you start us? The words are in your order of service, and they may be on the screen. I can't tell.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you.
We have a couple of important announcements today. First, as I said, we're welcoming our new part-time minister, Reverend Don Rollins, who I believe prefers to just be called Don. Don has ministered to many congregations, and it's rumored that he's also a musician, witness the guitar that's sitting beside him, and a singer. He will tell you more about himself as time goes on. And on the UU website was a nice little piece about Don and some of his history that you may want to take a peek at. Please greet him and Mary at the potluck luncheon later. We have 2 announcements from SOAR. That's Solutions-Oriented Addiction Response, the group that was formed several years ago as a means of beginning to work with harm reduction for people who are actively using substances and those who are addicted to those or dependent on those substances. UUC has always supported SOAR in its many activities, targeting harm reduction and providing advocacy and support for those persons who currently use substances, as well as those who are in recovery. First, SOAR's these are the needs. First, SOAR's monthly mutual aid evening is always held on the third Wednesday of each month at Kanawha Presbyterian Church on Virginia Street East, and they always are looking for volunteers. There are so many activities that are going on there. Medical people doing wound checks, social service people, people giving out food, giving out birth control, giving all sorts of things, and it's just a wonderful time to be there. But the big announcement and the request for assistance from SOAR is that their annual Save a Life Day it's the day that SOAR developed several years ago as a means to distribute naloxone and provide community education and to facilitate connection to treatment programs and other needs. Started with a few places here in Kanawha County set up, got donations of naloxone from the drug companies and went from there. It grew from that local activity based in Kanawha and Putnam counties to being held in all 55 of West Virginia's counties. And then, yay. And then by all the states east of the Mississippi, and this year, a couple of states west of the Mississippi are going to be participating as well. Each year, SOAR purchases many supplies, accepts donations, writes grants, does whatever they can do to get the gifts together that they want to send. This year, there will be over 300 boxes that they will be mailing to various sites that are having Save a Life Days, and this week, those of you who will be here, is the week that they pack the boxes. So the sanctuary is reserved during the daytime for all week long. They ask for, the boxes will be assembled and gotten ready to take to the post office on Monday morning, and they ask that any UU members who might want to volunteer to show up. I have a list of the times that they're going to be packing, and it's going to be open here, and I'll also send out a Google group to you all so that you'll have those times. And it's a lot of fun, I got to tell you. There are all kinds of people here packing boxes no matter which day you come, and I enjoy it. I hope you will too. Okay. Now it's time for lighting the chalice. I'm getting caught up with what I'm doing and what Dawn's doing here. Who's in here that will light? Ken, will you light the chalice for us today? While he's doing that, I'm going to read a piece of writing by Don Rollins called When Ideas Come at Dawn. We gather here to make place for the spirit that moved our ancestors. We gather here to make place for the spirit that comforts all who are hurting. We gather here to make place for the spirit that graces us with smiles and laughter. We gather here to make place for the spirit that comes at each and every dawn. Now, you're going to do a song.
You are. Finally get to be with you. So look at my very first ministry with a large congregation in Central Ohio. So I was a religious educator. I was not a parish minister at that point. So my job was to help take care of about 200 kids, which is daunting. It was daunting. So what happens is in that building, they've added on. So in that building at that time, there's a sanctuary, and then there's a hallway that goes to the religious education wing, kind of the upstairs, downstairs thing if you've been there. So, I mean, in that situation. So what happens is I'm bumping along to get to my job in the religious education wing, and speaking of bumping, I keep bumping these little people. And it occurs to me I'm not a little person. And then it occurs to me when they look up, they see my nose holes. That's the best I got. That's what they see. So I go back to lead one of the classes. I always enjoy being part of it, not just administrating, but being part. And so, a 6-year-old whom I happen to know said to me afterward, and I did my usual thing. So I said, here's a harmonica, let's see how it plays. So they thought that was very cool. I was God at that point. But then the 6-year-old said to me, I can't see you when you're up there, which means to me, I don't see you either. So that's when things changed. This is kind of a slick situation. But here we go. You're going to sing with me. And I always like it when the people with graduate degrees say the word nose holes in my song. It's a sick thing, but I really enjoy it. So here's your part. Nose holes, you got big nose holes. All you're showing me are those nose holes. Yeah, your nose holes, they're all I can see. You know that I can't see your face, and I can't see your eyes, so how can we relate? When you're twice my size, you got big old nose holes. All you're showing me are those nose holes. You got big nose holes. Yeah, your nose holes, they're all I can see. Tell me, how's the weather way up there? Now please, mister, don't you sneeze. You know that it would only be fair if you got down on your knees and stopped giving me nose holes. With gusto now, you got nose holes. All you're showing me are those nose holes. Yeah, your nose holes, they're all I can see. Tell me, am I a part of you? Are you a part of me? Now how are we gonna work this through? If those two big pipelines are all I see, stop giving me nose holes. You got big nose holes. All you're showing me are those nose holes. Yeah, your nose holes are all I can see. No, I'd like to say hello, and I'd like to be your friend. So I'd say you come down low, and let's try it once again without those nose holes. You got big old nose holes. All you're showing me are those nose holes. Yeah, your nose holes, they're all I can see. You got nose holes, they're all I can see. You got nose holes looking at me. You did well. Well done. You did. I've written probably 100 songs, and wherever I go, they ask for nose holes.
You know, you can scoot this booster out of the way when you're up here. I'm getting little pieces of paper from a lot of directions here. We're going to celebrate our joys, talk about our sorrows and needs for a minute. And there's lots of joys that are written down, which always makes me happy to see. The first is our new minister is starting today. Yay. And I need help with this, Tammy or Stephanie, but there was an amazing first harvest ritual with excellent fellowship as usual with Spiral Moon. The name, like I could understand that. Lunasa. Okay, close enough. But anyway, I know that was a gathering this week, and there was also the monthly drum circle that Spiral Moon facilitates that has a lot of community members that show up, and sometimes they're lucky enough to have Austin come and dance with them as they were. Were you outside this time or inside? Okay, okay. It's a lot of fun. Another joy, reconnecting with old friends can be an amazing experience. Never fear reaching out to others. Dawn met with people that were interested in religious education this weekend, and somebody says, we have a lot to look forward to. That's good news. Stephanie got a promotion at work. I hope it's easier than. Okay. We have joy for our amazing Olympic athletes, which has been wonderful to watch the bits and pieces that I've seen. And for me, I also saw on various commercials reruns of Mary Lou Retton, who grew up in the same county I grew up in, doing her amazing gymnastics from 20 years ago that got a lot of attention. That was fun to do that. Okay. Somebody says, good morning, Paul. Dinner with friends this week was great, and good conversation and good food, and except that I had to sit next to Ken, but other than that, it went very well. It was a good time, and encourage more people to come out for that monthly, wherever we end up going to. Did I say good morning, Paul? Okay, that was one of the things. Any other joys that people need to add?
I think you left one out. It was that Tammy's moved to Kanawha County.
Oh, that's right. Tammy has moved to Kanawha County. This woman was driving, an hour and a half to work every day and back to home. Now she's moved to Kanawha County, and she drives a reasonable distance to go to work and to come and see us. So, good. Congratulations. Okay. Sorrows and concerns. A couple of things. There's a member who's struggling, and we want to send some healing energy to them. So let's take a moment and take a breath and another breath. And hold that person in our hearts. Other sorrows, Paul's surgery, although I don't feel sorry for him anymore, he's up and walking with a cane now. So that's both a sorrow and a joy for his hip replacement. And this is a request from the community. I got an email from Art Silverson, who is an interesting artist and gardener who lives a block away from here, and who I got to tour his house the other day, and every inch is covered with some kind of art. It's really interesting. And his yard is filled with flowers. And he says that his rain dances have not done any good, and would I ask our congregation to keep the thought of rain coming to us in your prayers and in your wishes. So, Don, you do the offertory now, I think.
I'll do a little more introduction after we spend some time together in meditation. It's not a 2-for-1 deal, but Mary and I have been doing ministry together since, 13 years ago, a little over 13 years ago. And so she knew what she was in for. I didn't realize that Mary would be able to bring folks together as well as she does. I knew she ministered to me, but I didn't realize how much to other people. So, what we're going to do is Mary's going to lead us in some meditation just to get here, live in our bodies, maybe let go of our minds. What came before, as I told the RE folk yesterday, what came before is done. And what comes, we may or may not even have control. But we have this time. And what will we do with it? So Mary, if you would, come forward and help us get centered here.
Hello. I'm going to put this down a little bit. I'm not quite as tall as my husband, so we're going to bring this down.
But you're nicer.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to say how wonderful it is to be here with you this morning. There's just a wonderful energy about this place. And I've heard it from most of the people that I've met so far. You don't refer, I'm going to have to put this up again because that's, it's better if it's closer. If I get in like this, okay, there we go. Now it's, I kept pulling away going, oh, it's booming. Okay. So, what I was saying is that the word that I've heard from most of the people that I've met here when describing this place is family. You don't refer to it as a congregation. This is your home. This is your chosen family. And I think that that spirit is just such a refreshing and wonderful thing. So in keeping with that spirit, let's all take a really deep breath. Blow it out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Close your eyes if you will. I want you to feel the energy of the people around you. And take that in for a moment. I want you to feel the tension in your shoulders and relax. I want you to feel the tension we hold in our jaws and relax. Feel the energy and the loving grace of the people you're with. We are here now together, and that is such a gift. One last time, breathe in, breathe out.
Before you come back to this space with us, I ask that once again you get comfortable. And once again, you think about who's here with you this morning. Somebody here needs you. They need you to make eye contact and smile. Somebody here is in pain, spiritual, physical, mental, all the above. Somebody here may be a first-timer, not sure what's going on. Make sure they feel loved on. Somebody here is feeling alone. Somebody here is smiling inside. Somebody is on a roll, and life is good. Somebody, all of us here are in need or joy, but all of us are among friends. Somebody here needs you. Somebody just like you, just like me. Come back to this place. Quick background so you know what you got here. I was born and raised in southeastern Ohio, Jackson County. We now live in Jackson once again. I have no idea how we're back home for me at least, so I'm back home. So our culture I share with you, our Appalachian culture is as part of me as anything else. And like some of you, when I went away, they told me to lose my accent, so I did. They told me that where I came from, we were hillbillies, and I believed them for a while. And then I came back home. And then I realized that where I'd been out in the cities and the trails and the places, they had all their own gifts, but they were not home. So I come to you in many ways, those of you who are from this region, I come part of you. I was adopted at birth. All my bio folk are from Kanawha County. This is where they were born and raised. There was a drying up of some local coal mines. There were open coal mines in southeastern Ohio. So all my grandmother, all my great aunts, they migrated up that way for work, a common story. And again, those of you for these kind of regions, but you have the same kind of stories in your family tree. So that's what happened. That's how I got to be in Ohio and not West Virginia. My adopted family, great Appalachian names, Elmo and Ardith. It gets no better than that. So these folks did their best. We weren't a great match, but they definitely did their best. Left an evangelical student pastor in 74 when I graduated. I'm now 68. And so hit the road. And after that, a crisis of faith, and left the evangelical tradition, my wife at the time, and yes, my son. So it's been a journey since that point. And what happened was, after the crisis of faith, played a lot of music on the road again, and then decided I wanted to finish my college degree. That was 7 schools later, but I did get that college degree in teaching, social studies, education. That went fairly well. I did some teaching, but once again, the travel bug. So I ended up in a total of 11 states and 3 Canadian provinces with a graduate degree from seminary and a Unitarian Universalist. There's a whole lot in between, but that's good enough for now. So over half of my career has been in interim positions, probably a third in small congregations, 100 or less, probably fewer than that, probably. And it's been a blast, more or less. It's not easy, and I'm glad to have retired 2 years ago. I make the mistakes on occasion of looking to see what openings there might be, and there is Charleston, my people. So, 3 things. First of all, I came because I am passionate about liberal religion in Appalachia. I believe in it. I will go to the mat for it. Second, I believe that there is something about being with yous that sometimes we are goofy, and yet there are times when I step away to say their values are my values. Freedom, community, justice, that's what we do. That's where I want to be. The last is, retirement was not exactly monetarily great. So there's that piece too. But they are in the right order. All that said, what I want to do primarily is tell you a story. I have written and rewritten 3 different services for you, and this is the 3rd. Let's see how it goes. I have been in retirement for 2 years. I've done 2 services in 2 years, I think, right? Pennsylvania, Athens, I think that's it. Okay. By the way, I was with our congregation in Athens, Ohio, 2 different stints. We had a good time in the mid-90s, and then about 5 years ago, they were at a point where they couldn't afford ministry. So that's why no longer with those good folks. Let me get set up here. Somewhere during my 2nd or 3rd year in ministry, it occurred to me, and Mary, here we go already. Stay where you are. There you go. It occurred to me in my 2nd or 3rd year of seminary, I wasn't cut out for settled ministry. Staying in one place was fairly boring, so why not? I had a way to do this. Now, Deborah, they actually are going to pay me to get on the road, so what a deal. I wasn't cut out for that. So what I really wanted to do, and here's what it is, folks. What I wanted to do was turn our congregations on to new ideas and big ideas. That's where the fire was. And it wasn't something just warm and fuzzy or daydreaming. It had to do, what's those best practices that congregations are using to have good ministry and, by the way, a lot of fun. So it was just that simple, not easy, but let's do some ideas. Turned out my particular call to ministry was as a consultant who preaches, not so much a preacher who consults. That's interim ministry. Not everybody's place in the world, but clearly that was mine. The good news, there was a niche in my movement for ministers like me. Interim ministry was a thing. I really could do this the rest of my career. There really were congregations in transition and needed a little bit of help. There really were colleagues who got it. That was their story too. They were living into it too. There was room for people like me. Here's the bad news. I'd have to go through the grind of moving every 1 to 3 years and start all over again. Move after move, same old drill. Find the next doctor, the next dentist, the nearest grocery stores, bicycle tech, guitar tech, a good walking route, and a good therapist. Start all over again. That was the deal. That was my path. For as the complicated German-Swiss author Hermann Hesse once told us, some of us are nomads. We're not farmers. So I tell you about my journey to your door and new friends across the river, because if I've learned anything over the past 37 years hanging out with Unitarian Universalists, it's the values of ideas, the value of ideas. It really is. We'll say more in our year together. But the idea of ideas, being able to step out of what is and trying on something new. See what happens. Infrastructure, policies, budgeting, staffing, strategic planning, visioning, fundraising, all that nuts and bolts. Those of you who are already nervous about idea stuff, it's okay. This is the stuff we do too. It matters. From the 15-member church in Maine, from the 550 fellowship in North Carolina, it was all about the hardware, making sure the next generation had a place to come, and it was good. But without exception, the most vital, the most interesting, the most open-minded of the congregation I've served are those who believe that ideas are core value. They elevate ideas. The culture is one of yes. Let's go do our research. Let's get an initial plan together. Find out if we're on to something here. And let's go change some lives. And they support those new habits by choosing both dreamers and doers. Because without the doers, chaos ensues. That's what we do. There's no accountability for fulfilling the mission. It can be a mess. And without the dreamers in equal strength, folks, here it is, there is no heartbeat. There is so little soul, no gut-level imagination, and urgency to be a better congregation today than we were tomorrow. So those are the ones on fire. As I reflected on all this last evening, one more thing came to mind about what those congregations have taught me. They have a vibe. They have a vibe that runs through every worship service, every committee meeting, every stewardship drive, every anti-oppression system. It's this: if there's a better way to be us, what are we waiting for? Why not be as progressive in here as we are out there? Ideas. I believe there are off-ramp when we're in a rut. There are salvation from sameness and boredom. And when I was ordained way back in the early Paleolithic period, it was basically, my ordination was one big party. We didn't want to be the same. We didn't want to do the robes and the high church stuff. That wasn't who I was. And neither were the folks who nurtured me. It was a big party with my band. We were the background. And I was basically flying my Appalachian freak flag after 3 years of heady training, chaplaincies, earned internships. I realized some of the folk in my congregation were disapproving. They were kind hearts. They rolled with it. They partied too, and we did okay. And those invited speakers, let me tell you about them real quick. They were my mentors. They were seasoned ministers who'd helped me clear the considerable hurdles of seminary. Psychological testing, 3 months of full-time chaplaincy, 1,000 hours in supervised internship, and you get the idea. Man, I had made it. I was one, except for that year of preliminary fellowship, by the way. But I was on my way. I was among my peers, for real. Back to the ordination. The late Reverend Midge Squire, my mentor in the field of religious education, had little to say when it was her turn at the podium. Few words, just a story. But what a story it is, and what a story to tell you as we begin this shared ministry. The Ideas Peddler is author Sarah Ellis's window into how everybody gets stuck along the way. Our lives feel rote, they're empty. We're tired, but we can't rest. We're scared, but we're not sure why. What we do know is our spirits are heavy, and peace is hard to come by, and we're flat out stuck. Sarah Ellis's answer to the stuckness is to find, and better yet, and get this part please, create ideas of our very own. To be open to what the Zen Buddhists tell us, that don't know mind. The mind is open. The mind is ready. The mind is loving. Tap your wisdom. Tap your creativity. So although I can't touch what Midge did all those years ago, I want to read what she gave me, and that was Sarah Ellis's The Ideas Peddler. The story took place a very long time ago, very far away, maybe both. It concerns a peddler, and it happened in Aberbog, a tidy, organized, prosperous town by the sea. And every year in fall, there was a fair in town, and peddlers came from all over to sell their wares. They had boots and bells and spices and cloths, pots and knives and ribbons, perfume, pancake flippers, liniments, lotions. And those peddlers would sit in the market square with their items piled all around them. But one year a new peddler came to town, and unlike the others, sat down on his carpet with nothing at all. Now, this was a town where folks didn't ask many questions, so he sat there a long time. And finally, a young woman named Sophie, by the way, wisdom in Greek, got very curious and came over to ask what he was selling. Ideas, he said. I'm an ideas peddler. Sophie wrinkled nose. Who would buy an idea? Well, said the peddler, they're brought by those of us who are out of ideas, or they're just moldy, or they just ain't working. They're bought by people who have used up their supply. How much do they cost? Asked Sophie. Depends on the type. The most expensive are thoughts, and they cost a night's lodging. The cheapest are whims. They cost an apple. In between are concepts, plans, opinions, impressions, notions, and fancies. And by now, Sophie was pretty interested. So she ran to the fruit stall, came back with an apple. I'd like a whim, please. The peddler pocketed the apple, and said, here's a top quality whim. If you can glue little pieces of metal to the soles of her shoes, you can dance. But I don't like dancing, said Sophie. That's all right, said the peddler. You don't have to do it. It's an idea, after all. Just some words to keep in your head. Sophie went away looking puzzled. Nobody else bought an idea that day, so the peddler slept out in the open air. But the next day, things changed. Mary the baker arrived in the early morning with a fresh loaf to buy an impression. So the peddler looked up to the hills behind him, and he said, the hill in the middle there, that's a giant carrot pudding just out of the oven. She wrinkled her nose too. And then Perkins and Snick, twin brothers who were fishermen, got together to buy a notion about the sea. When the peddler told them that there were tiny little fish that swam upright, they thought it was a good joke and went away slapping each other on the back. And then, from then on, there was a steady stream of customers. Mind you, not everybody was satisfied. Jones, the farmer, rich and grumpy, wanted a plan. So the peddler said he should knit little sweaters to keep his pumpkins warm at night. Butts Butter Jones, men don't knit. The peddler took a breath. The peddler replied there was no reason at all the men could knit and charge him extra. Soon, people were walking around with little half smiles on their faces, murmuring things like, drawer spelled backward is reward. If there were 8 days in the week, we'd have more holidays. Maybe the tide doesn't go out. Maybe the sand just pulls back. Children like the peddler, he gave out free ideas. And meanwhile, the peddler was doing pretty well. He was earning 3 good meals a day, a roof over his head at night, had new soles on his boots. All would have been fine if the mayor hadn't wandered by one day and noticed the peddler sitting in the market with nothing around him but a line of customers. The mayor pushed to the front. "What are you doing here? What are you selling?" he asked. The peddler told him about ideas. The mayor looked confused, and then because, like you and me, he didn't like to be confused, he got mad. "Where do you get these ideas?" "I make 'em up," replied the peddler. "Sounds like you make 'em up." "Well, actually, up, down, sideways, via, through," said the peddler with a faraway look. By this time, the mayor realized he was losing ground. He turned to glare at the crowd of people who were beginning to giggle. "All right," he said, "let's have a look at one of these so-called ideas. Thought, concept, plan, opinion, impression, notion, fancy, or whim." "Give me a whim," replied the mayor, who was lost. "Well," said the peddler, "if on a sunny day you hold your hand like this near a wall, you can make a shadow that looks like a duck." The mayor had turned 3 kinds of purple. He opened and closed his mouth like he was a fish. A duck, what good is a duck? What's it for, these ideas? The peddler spoke very quietly. The use of them is fresh air for the brain. They make you stop and say to yourself, "Gee willikers, I never thought of it that way before." "That's nonsense," said the mayor. "Not actually," said the peddler. "Where I come from, nonsense is sold by the nonsense peddler. She has all kinds of stuff: nonsense, absurdity, folly, trash, moonshine, twaddle, drivel, claptrap, bosh, balderdash, gobbledygook." "Enough," said the mayor. "Aberbog will not stand for your insolence. You will hear from me tomorrow," and he stamped off. The next morning, a special meeting of the town council was called, and the mayor announced, "We have to do something about the Ideas Peddler down at the market. He is dangerous." The councilors knew it wasn't a good idea to disagree with the mayor, so they all supported him wholeheartedly. "Yes," said one, "ideas are hazardous, they're untidy." Soon there was a chorus of voices. "Ideas make people unhappy. They're noisy. They have lumps. They don't match. They ain't natural. They collect dust. They cost too much. They shed. They'll hurt your brain. They cause allergies." So the mayor smiled. "So what should we do with that Ideas Peddler?" "Run him out of town," said the councilors. "That's it," said the mayor. "Fine, run him out of town." So the police officer was called, but the time she got there to find the peddler had disappeared without a trace. Nobody knew where he had gone. Nobody in Aberbog ever saw him again. The changes were there. The people had started thinking of their own ideas, and that's what matters here, y'all. The people started thinking about their own ideas, and they couldn't stop once they started. Everywhere you looked, people were pondering and musing and laughing and reflecting, and when the mayor objected further, the people persuaded him to move on to the next town. And Aberbog managed just fine with no mayor at all. With all those ideas floating around, the town did become more untidy, and it was less organized. It wasn't quite as prosperous, but man, it was a lot more fun to live there. Thus ends the gospel. Some thoughts. The peddler shows up, none of the typical hardwares at the annual fair. Something odd is going on in Aberbog, a town where big ideas don't get talked about. Something foreign, something weird is happening. The Ideas Peddler has to build a client base. So the next day, a citizen named Sophie, Wisdom, stops by and can't quite get her head around what's going on, so she decides to give it a go. Sophie is at the threshold of imagination. Peddler tells her how to turn her ordinary shoes into a complete rhythm section for dancing. But Sophie's a practical, probably Myers-Briggs left brain person, if you know that reference. She's not a dancer. Who would pay for tap shoes? What's the point? Remember the question. Fair enough. You don't have to do it. It's just an idea after all. But can you handle the idea that it's just some words to keep in your head? I read this passage early on. I think it's the core of the story. Specifically, the best new ideas are often rejected out of hand, not because they don't fit some parochial standard somewhere about what's useful and what's not. So we can't judge Sophie. Sophie is you and me. She missed a bigger point. It happens. She missed the very idea of ideas. And she's just us. She's you and me when she'd rather have the facts and the outcomes and the bottom lines. They're easier to track, not so much ideas. Someone much wiser than I once said, when we don't know what to do, we do what we know. Sophie's just you and me. So the plot shifts with the growing stream of customers. Mary the baker buys an impression about making pudding. Perkins and Snick, a notion about the sea. He is meeting these folk where they are, bakers and pudding, fishers and the sea. So now the peddler's handing out ideas. He's connecting with the townsfolk, except for Farmer Jones. He leaves as grumpy as he came. I can't tell you for sure why Jones is in this narrative, but my hunch he's there to represent those times when we give up on an idea too soon. And in congregational parlance, we tried it once and it didn't work. Farmer Jones is stuck. And by the way, he's sexist. So the tale takes on a more somber tone, but not before folks start to get it. They begin coming up with their own ideas. They're tapping their own creativity. They're almost childlike. They can play now. They can be whole. But like Farmer Jones, the mayor of Aberbog believes ideas are a total waste of time rather than extend curiosity, which is used. Extend curiosity. Become a student of change. He opts to defend his power and his privilege. He's angry. An old order of stuff is passing. A new one is emerging, and he's scared. So the mayor calls for a special meeting of the town council. He tells them the peddler is what? He's dangerous. Council shouts out in support. It's like we're reading about the Grinch at this point. And the police are called in to restore order. And here's a somber aside, by the way. After the police are called in to restore order, I can't help but think of the age-old paranoia of the powerful at Selma, at Blair Mountain, at Stonewall, at 1,000 other places where the idea of full humanity has come under assault. Those were ideas that we matter, ideas that somebody cares. So that's my somber side. In quick order, the police officer arrives, but she finds no trace of the peddler. He is gone. And the mayor books on out of town and takes with him the bad idea that good ideas don't matter and will hurt your brain. And the moral of the story, y'all, is this. You get it. The right idea at the right moment can change everything. Not all ideas are equal. Not every idea will pan out. There comes a time where if we have to say we did give it a good shot, now let's move on to the next good idea. And you know, like I know, ideas can be expensive. Sometimes the idea of moving on or letting go will cost us. And there'd be a high price to pay and a rigid reality to surrender. But, my UU friends across the river, stale and artificial answers to questions cannot be avoided. We come into that rut. And as we walk through this coming year together, what say we give ourselves and one another permission to be creative, to give it a shot, to dream and not wonder who's listening or how it goes? And folks, if I sound like I'm the peddler talking to you, then you've missed the story. I am not the peddler. You're the peddler. Everybody here is the peddler. Everybody else here is the town. And may I put it out there, maybe you're Farmer Jones and Mayor, because I sure am sometimes. So this ain't about you or me. It's about the ideas. And will they lead us to a better place, After we finish this year, can we say that you all are stronger and clearer and having more fun? That's what it's about. So that's the idea about ideas. Final words from UU writer Karen Lee Shelley. She told us, we do it once and everybody loves it. So somebody says, let's do it again next year. And then some brave or foolish soul volunteers to make it happen again. And now we got us a tradition. Twice more, make sure it's on the church calendar. Twice more, let's call it a ritual. Only twice more, and we've always done it that way. Twice more, and now, this is for you, those with Catholic tradition, it is now canon law. Why? Just because somebody said, let's do it more than once. So I suggest to you that you and I are all the characters in the story. Let's have some fun.
I'm so glad he has that attitude, especially since I skipped half the things that I was supposed to say today and that I'm not going to say. But a couple of things, some thank yous to Dawn and to Mary. Thank yous to Jamie for, as always, for his creative presence and for his music. Thank you to, who's here today? Maddie and Jaden and Maddie for their work as a tech team. Thank you to Jean and Tammy for their ushering. Thank you to Tammy for taking on the greeting today, being the greeter. We appreciate that. There's also a couple of announcements that I forgot. Even though this is a ritual, this is something that we always do. We always have announcements. Okay. These are from our fearless leader, I believe, Neil Chakrabarty. If you wish to work with kids in any way, please contact a board member. And I think they got started with some RE stuff yesterday, and things will be continuing. I need to announce that Michelle Foster, who has graciously appeared to care for little ones, from time to time this year, she's off to college. So she will not be available for that service anymore. And Neil is going to be starting some new U and UU classes starting the 18th of August after service. So we'll be meeting in whatever room is available for them to meet. Now let's and I can't hear you. Ah, Sam's here. Yeah. In case, and Sam has been ill and is returning with his wife Betsy. In case you didn't see the smile across my face when I looked over and saw you there. Yeah. Let's go ahead. This is another thing that we always do, but that we like to do. And let's please join us in saying our affirmation, our unison affirmation. The words are in your order of service. Love is the spirit of our faith, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We'll have a closing hymn and then a few more words after the closing hymn. Number 121 in the gray hymnal. Is that right, Jamie? Okay. We'll build a land. You all are familiar with this.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go.
song, in word, in ritual. Now we return to the world of majesty and suffering, the world crying out for new ideas and for bold creativity. Go, more determined to follow the Spirit that will not let us be, the one forever inviting us to release what was and to embrace what is calling us forward. Amen. Go in peace and enjoy your potluck. And thank you for supporting me today, because I'm not used to this. So it was good. Now in peace, go now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you every